about banning Muslims from entering the country created a firestorm. According to Facebook, it was the most talked about moment online of your entire campaign, with more than 10 million people talking about the issue. Is there anything you've heard that makes you want to rethink this position?
No. No.
While the initial din may have died down, the issue itself certainly remains for those who seek to take it to the extreme. Those who believe without one shadow of a doubt that every person with a Muslim faith connection in this country needs to be watched and in some cases deported simply because they carry the scarlet M letter by their name. It is, of course, not true. And while there are those here in America and those seeking to come to America and do harm who identify as Muslim, there is a vast swath of this nation's citizens and population who are still proud Americans. They want to be here and only seek to help instead of being hammered. One person who is seeking to change attitudes and is determined to be heard. Welcome back. The president of the Republican Muslim Coalition, Saba Ahmed, joins us once again. Saba, it's always a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you. And since we last spoke, it's been a few weeks. Have you noticed anything in the country changing? Have you noticed anything getting better, or is it getting worse?
Well, it's certainly getting worse. I mean, there have been terrorist attacks in Turkey and Indonesia, and it's just every day we get to hear about some new atrocity committed by ISIS or some other radical group. But yesterday, I was disappointed to see Donald Trump not changing his views, but we are working still with his campaign manager to schedule a meeting and get on his calendar. And they have assured me that they will be meeting with us probably late January and in New York City. So I'm just waiting to get a confirmation. And we really hope to change Donald Trump's mind on Muslims. I think a blanket religious discrimination and illegal ban based just on religion is completely unconstitutional. And he needs to look into what policies he's advocating for. There's no basis for banning people based on religion.
But looking at that stern face of his in the debate from last night and the absolute no, that he is not changing his mind, what could you possibly say that could change the mind of someone who seems to be so entrenched in his opinion?
Well, I'm staying positive and hopeful. I think all of the GOP candidates yesterday showed their fears about Islam and radical Islam specifically. They all talked about jihad. They all showed their ignorance about Islam. I think what got me most upset was how blatantly they thought they knew what they were talking about when they talk about Islamic jihad, which is supposed to be just a struggle serving God. They only, in their minds, associated that with terrorism, but practicing Muslims have to do jihad every day in terms of struggling to live their lives to serve God. And unless we understand what we're talking about, you can never solve the problems. And none of them have actually identified the real root causes of terrorism. They all are misguided and ignorant about Islam. And I think we have a lot of work to do within the Republican presidential candidate.
Now let's talk about the Republican side, because South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, who was once running for president, now is endorsing Jeb Bush for president. And earlier today, in an address, he talked about that exact plan, Donald Trump's plan to still ban Muslims from entering the United States. And here's what he said.
Mr. Trump doubled down on the idea that we as a nation should ban every Muslim in the world, at least temporarily, from coming to our great country. I can't think of a worse idea in terms of how to fight and win this war. Many of the people running for president are eerily silent on this issue.
Saba, while you're trying to change Donald Trump's mind, you hear Lindsey Graham there, a Republican, Jeb Bush, a Republican standing there, and you, a Republican. Do you sense Republicans changing their minds? Not Donald Trump, but do you sense any change whatsoever in the party?
I think that's exactly what we need to focus on, changing Republican minds about Muslims and Islam. I think Lindsey Graham is starting to soften up, which is nice to see. He's been a staunch advocate against Islam and Muslims for a long time, so it's nice to see him changing his views. I do monitor a lot of congressional hearings, and I've often been surprised at comments that he makes. So it's nice to see at least he's starting to soften up. But I think a lot more needs to be done. Yesterday's debate just highlighted the issue of radical Islam, jihad, for all of us. And unless we understand what we're talking about, we can never address it. And otherwise we'll just continue in endless wars. We have had military engagements for the last 15 years and they haven't accomplished anything. And if any of the GOP candidates are serious about solving terrorism. They need to engage with Muslim Americans to solve the problem and address the ideology that's fueling.
I've only got about 20 seconds left here. Would you agree with those people who say, those Muslims who say, I am a victim of ISIS, just like everybody else?
I do. Yes, I do.
And
we are all victims of ISIS. They have hijacked our religion. We need to take it back from them.
we need to take it back, and I think that's probably true, too, because sometimes you have to stop some of the fear, if you will, take a step back, and have some common sense. Saba Ahmed, you are always welcome on this show. You have that common sense. We much look forward to having you again. Take care of yourself. Coming up next, the political animal, because left versus right on things such as New York values and the video that has Trump backers laughing. Stay with us. We'll continue on The Hard Line.